Welcome to Tales from the Switch Vault, where I, Jim, look back at some of the weird and wonderful games from the Nintendo Switch. This time I delve into Dredge. Released in March 2023 on PC and consoles, Dredge was added to the small collection of fishing titles already on Switch. It's the debut game from New Zealand indie studio Black Salt Games, and really stood out due to its horror vibes. Dredge is a horror fishing game with a twist. Typically in an angling title, the player is in first person on a riverbank or maybe in a boat. Movement is limited to the direction the rod is facing, or maybe you jump locations via a map. Dredge, however, has you controlling the boat and gives you the freedom to explore the seas and islands. In theory, you'd think this would be severely limiting as you're just stuck in the water, but with a clever docking system and a rich archipelago to explore, you certainly feel like a rugged fisherman. The premise is you wash up on an island and get given a boat by the mayor, but with a catch. You now owe a debt and must fish to pay this off while exploring this strange world. This is only to kick things off. Once you pay the debt, the fishing and the exploration is the real meat here. There's a continuous day-night cycle that brings out different aquatic life and monsters to avoid. This is where the horror comes in. For instance, having the giant phantom shark chasing you down will fill you with terror. The monsters in this game are just absolute dicks. You're minding your own business, checking out the crab pot that you just remember exists, and all of a sudden a grotesque dickhead starts smashing into you, destroying your rare fish you've just caught. Bastards. Acquiring aquatic life to sell works via finding fishing spots and doing a quick time minigame. It's a pretty good system compared to others. Reeling in is continuous but slow, and the user's time button input speeds up the process. The pattern and style changes from fish to fish. Considering that time only moves when you do or when you're fishing, it's imperative to be quick and efficient. Get the catch back fresh and earn more money, then head out again. Fuck, where to start with the visuals? Having it as a horror game gives it a really distinct look and a beautiful colour palette. Blues and blacks bleed into one another in the ocean, with incredible lighting to produce fantastic sunsets. It really is easy on the eye. Well, when it's not getting foggy as the monsters start to swarm around you, that is. I actually think the NPC designs are even better. Ragged paintbrush figures who look like they've seen it all. Add in great writing and they really add to the character of this world. Though I must say, the fishmonger is probably the creepiest motherfucker in any game I've ever played. Ugh. Speaking of the world, it has different biomes for each archipelago, with Stellar Basin in particular looking absolutely gorgeous. On the opposite end of the scale, we have the creatures of the deep, the aberrations of which look horrific. I love the trailer of the game with the fishmonger getting more and more excited with each disgusting haul brought in. Extremely memorable. Oh, and I love the little boat, it's very cute and you can actually repaint it. The UI is nicely laid out and very low key when out sailing. It could be a little cumbersome when trying to find the submenu or the right place to buy a rod. As you can imagine, the game has a delightful sea shanty-like music in the background. It's a very light touch that perfectly accompanies the gameplay. This, however, turns as the storm come in, or a monster chases you down. The tunes can get very moody and atmospheric, I really like it. Add in apt sounds such as the crashing of the waves and seagulls cawing overhead, it really all adds to the immersion. I particularly like the gambling-esque bings for special catches such as a new aberration. Where this game hooks you in, pun intended, is in upgrading your boat and items. You start out very limited and extremely slow, only a coastal rod attached to your boat. Sell enough fish while paying off your loan and eventually you can afford a new rod to unlock new fish types. This is the main hook, going back and forth building up your funds and boat. This will then allow you to venture out into new fish types and islands. Upgrading the boat takes items as well as cash, so until the dredge mechanic is unlocked, you're stuck with your limited item slots on the boat. Items such as wood are discovered as you explore and are stored on the boat. I love the Resident Evil style management game, finding space on your boat for all the fish amongst the boat gear. Catch too much, or the fish has a weird shape and you have to toss it back. To keep pushing you, the fish stocks are limited, and overfishing means it will not be available for a few days, forcing you to sail further and into potentially more dangerous waters. The game has a day-night cycle which differs from, say, Stardew Valley in a positive way, whereas in Stardew it has a strict 15-ish minute timer whereby you have to be back in bed, otherwise you collapse and get penalised the next day. Dredge allows 24-hour exploration, which is really nice, though it limits the player with dangers and a full cargo that always brings them back to land. The horror element and story is what sets this apart from many other similar titles. It's a weird and foreboding world with creepy characters warning you with tales of the deep. Horror is not my go-to genre, but it's definitely more spooky than scary. Researching into this, it comes up as Eldritch or Lovecraftian horror genre, emphasizing the unknowable or incomprehensible rather than gore or scares. Think of The Sinking City or Bloodborne as games in the genre. I am now totally on board with this, though I must confess I spent the first couple of hours skulking around the starting shallows area in fear, too scared to venture out. Yes, I am a moron. Beyond the core loop, there are plenty of side quests and things to poke around in. For the completion list, there's the encyclopedia to complete with 230 fish to discover. Shout out to Root for actually completing this. For all of my shiny living dex obsession in Pokemon, I have yet to get round to this, though being able to sell all of the catch just makes it easier and more relaxing. Post-launch, the game was supported with 2 major DLCs, the Pale Reach and the Iron Rig. The Pale Reach added in a frozen region, which was pretty good for a few hours. However, the Iron Rig was a significant update, adding in far more upgrades and items to keep pushing you as you help complete a drilling rig. Both are worthy additions though. Dredge comes from New Zealand indie studio Black Salt Games and was published by Team 17 of Worms fame. The Team of 4's very first game has been a smash hit, selling over 1 million copies within a year. They have done an excellent job with great support post-launch. It runs really well on Switch with no major issues when playing. It's due to come to mobile in late 2024. No word yet on their next title. Released to critical acclaim, Dredge was nominated for Best Independent Game and Best Debut Indie Game at the Game Awards and Best Indie Game at the Golden Joystick Awards. It did win Best Indie at the IGN Awards in 2023. Considering the competition of 2023, this was my 4th favourite game of that year. With it being about 10 hours in length, it feels very snappy and it has the fantastic fishing loop. It's weird how generally fishing and golfing games seem to appeal so broadly. I suspect that one element is that both are complicated finicky pastimes that can be reduced down far easier than most others. For all my Sega bass fishing love, this title is utterly fantastic and well worth your time, particularly if you enjoy spooky games rather than scary. There's a safe mode if you just want a relaxing fishing game that takes out the stress. I do have a couple of gripes with the game. I wish the daytime was just a touch longer, it always feels just a little short. I'd also love some voice acting, though neither are actually a deal breaker for me. Bonus points for giving me a bad ending, which I always prefer in a game. It makes me laugh. I like the DLC, it's good though not absolutely necessary, but those wanting more of a fix then definitely pick it up, it will scratch an itch. This is a unique fishing game and stands well above other similar titles on the Switch. Black Salt Games has done amazing work and I'm extremely interested to see what they dredge up next.